Good evening, it's evening time. My name's Peter ChatField and I've come along to do this for you, to allay some of your fears about Islam. I'm at the moment, if you're wondering why I'm laying like this, it's because I'm in a hospital bed and I'm facing death, certain death, quicker than say most of you out there, even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. I'd like to speak to people in general about Islam and what it is and what it is not. Because I know that today we are looked at like we are some kind of poison. The news that is reaching the average person out there is derogatory nonsense that doesn't portray or even come near Islam and what it is and what it is not. 15 years ago, I picked up a book called the Quran, and I opened it and I started to read it. What I realized was that the Quran was a way of life. And I opened this book, the Quran, and what I noticed that was different about the Quran is that it was a system for life. It actually works. As I read through and I read the surahs, the meanings, and I got my head out of the red top syndrome, you know, the papers that you buy in this country. What I realized was Islam was a very beautiful religion or system for life, and I prefer to call it a system for life. When we get to religion, we all know that religion has, as far back as we can remember, has always been a point for man to start to war, and that war always just leads to more people being killed. And we've got to the place now where the world is such a dangerous place that if it doesn't have a healer pretty quick, then I don't see a very good future ahead of us. When I picked up the Quran, I noticed in there that it was very straightforward reading. It was very light on the head, and as I adjusted to it, yes, I became Muslim. So I make no mistake about that. I sit here talking to you tonight as a Muslim, and 15 years ago that gift was given to me. I would like to dispel some of the ideas that have been sold to you, and they have been sold to you. And I also know that people out there may be powerless. Maybe these governments that are running us are bigger than us, but you're not powerless. But I also realise a lot of people out there are waking up, and they're realising that Islam, coming through the right mouths, through the good people, is a wonderful religion. Full of honour, dignity. One thing that I got from when I became Muslim was my honour, my dignity. My way of life changed. I started to look after myself. Very practical things. And that is how it reads, the Quran, a very practical book. There's no mystery about it. There's no burning bushes. There's nothing like that. We also believe in Jesus. A lot of you people out there don't know that we believe in Jesus as well. We have no argument with other religions. These are religions and arguments are made up by men who should know better. But it's the only way they know how to deal with it. That's what we've had since time begun, and the Western powers put their foot down and got into gear. We've had nothing but problems. So that usually would wake up the normal man and to say, well, this doesn't work. But the trouble is, it does work. Through the sale of arms, through the ownership of one another, through the ownership of cars, through the ownership of other countries. Yes, and I mean other countries, because that's how it's become now. We invade other countries. To get back to the Quran, I know that a lot of people look at the differences before they look at the similarities. They watch the Taliban and the way they dress on television and stamp Islam there. That's not Islam. Those people were just fighting for a cause they believed in. They look at certain dress and certain style, and that's what they buy into. They don't believe there's actual people that are wearing them that are intelligent, good people. Now, I'm not saying Islam doesn't have its problems. We have big problems ourselves, and we need to get on our. We need to really pull ourselves together. As Muslims, we have got a lot of inside job to do. But that doesn't mean that while we're doing that, that countries, America especially, is in the business of trying to dominate other countries. You know, yes, Islam has to have a good look at itself. I couldn't say anything else for that to be the truth. But that doesn't mean that we must be subordinate to the United Kingdom and America. Those countries shouldn't be subordinate to them, because it seems that as long as they're making all the laws, then it's okay for them to do as they like. No doubt some of you have seen recently the pictures from the Gaza Strip. Well, I'm sure every housewife out there would look at their heart and say, this is wrong. But again, powerless to do anything about it. But we're going to do something about it, because Muslims and people alike, you see, we have so many people every year coming to Islam because they feel safe within the boundaries of the Quran. It gives people a feeling of safety. Also, a lot of people are now judging the kind of rubbish they're fed from television and papers and knowing to not be true. A great deal you read in those papers is just rubbish. I'd like to just talk briefly about the Gaza and what's happening there. Now, it must be apparent to all of you that what's happening there is it's a Holocaust. There's nothing more than that. It's fish trapped in a barrel just being shot. You know, how the world is standing back and letting this go on is hypocrisy, true hypocrisy. On one hand, we can go into a country and dominate it. On the other hand, we can't stop what's going on in the Gaza. Maybe some of you saw that image of a grandfather sitting down with a young girl, his granddaughter, picking the shrapnel out of her leg. Just happened. You know, those scenes are sickening. They're not the kind of thing that I like to wake up to as a Muslim. To me, that is the worst of worst. To just shoot people down, regardless of who they are, how young they are. We have a long way to go. As Muslims, we've got a long way to go, because we've got brother fighting brother. We've got people that are just falling apart. We've got a humour that's just falling apart at the moment. And that's sad. That's sad. Us Muslims need to shape up. We need to carry the message of Islam, not the message of violence and war. Every year alone in America, hundreds of women are raped, babies being aborted. That's the kind of world we're living in. We're living in a world that is run on fear by politicians who want us in a state of fear. Because we're more easy to manage when we're in a state of fear. You know, God calls the shots here. When your time's up, your time's up. And no one else calls that shot, as much as they would like to think they do. But these governments that we have here now in the Western world have just become hypocrites. They've just become... I wonder all the time who's really saying what. because now we become subordinate to the governments, whereas the governments, if truly democratic, should be working for us people. But that's not the way it is now. You can park your car for a minute and you've got a fine coming through the door. That's the kind of... And that happened in Rome. The same thing happened to the Roman Empire. It imploded. And it's happened to empire after empire. When they haven't got a war abroad that's of value, where they can steal, corrupt, rip off, whatever. Let's look at slavery. Let's look at what we done there in Africa. We just, I think it was something like 60 million people we stole from Africa. And they would lose them on the ships, taking them to Jamaica, where they would be dispensed to America. You know, the last country to drop its slavery laws. It's a sad place. 200 years old, and it shows. It really does show. They're lost. America is a lost country. It's lost into the tunes of Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. You know, you're lost in a big dream. Yeah, it is the American dream, okay, and it is a dream, because it's got nothing to do with the reality that I know. When you see that on the television, you know, those people really are suffering. There's nothing in it for a cameraman to be in a dangerous area other than to just give the truth. Sometimes we know that's distorted, but for the most part, you're getting the truth. But as far as America's concerned, unless they start turning their attitude into a place of being helpful, instead of threatening the rest of the world with sanctions and God knows what. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best of what they're up to. But they should got to back off. They've just got to back off, because they are going to cause the next war between Russia and America. And it's happened all my life. All my life I've been under threat. From the Bay of Pigs, the Cuban Missile Crisis, threatening to fry me. And we wonder why we grow up in a state of fear. Vietnam. Then they went and took Saddam out. You know, now they're scratching their heads wondering what have we done. Because it was all manageable before. And now it's become unmanageable. It's got bigger than them. But getting back to Islam, you know, there's a true state of being in the Quran. There's a true place in your heart if you really read the Quran and see what it has to offer you. I hope everyone one day sits down and just for once in their life reads the Quran, and there's actually a system for life, how to cope. It deals with the money side of things. It deals with the matrimonial side of things, death, birth. It deals with everything. Isa announced it. Jesus alayhi salam, he announced him. He announced Muhammad and said that that man will explain all things in detail because he had to go. I'd like to thank you all very much for listening to me. I hope you get something out of it and stop this fear of Islam. Islam's not your enemy. Islam's not the causer of your pain. Islam doesn't send those bills through your door every day that are highly, grossly inflated. Islam just doesn't want to charge you to just walk out your gate of a morning. You know, we've got to stop this business of blaming Islam. You know, if the Queen of England, one of her subjects misbehaves, you wouldn't indict the Queen, would you? You wouldn't take the Queen to court. We're all subjects of this earth. We're all subjects of this earth, and I say this from the heart. If we don't do something quickly, and I mean quickly, then we're going to have a state of fitna like you wouldn't believe. A state of this world where it will be such a dark place to live, because money and power will be the greatest shortcoming of mankind. The rich will not only get rich, but they will stay healthy. The poor will get poor, and they will become unhealthy. And when people are hungry, then you've got a state of war. And there is enough room and time in this place, in this world, to adjust ourselves for another place. As you got this consciousness, you may get another. And if you doubt me, you've got this one, you've got this one. So don't say that, you know, there's no other, because you would be talking in ground that you know nothing about, because you are actual evidence of yourself. You're the evidence of yourself. If you can touch, feel, smell, then you are evidence to yourself. Try to look at Islam as an option, and that's all I'm trying to give you here, is an option. And read it, and if nothing else, you will become a better person. You'll become, you'll be good. And when good breeds good, only good comes of that. When it's bad, bad comes of that. It's quite simple. There's no mystery to it. So do yourself a favour, you know. Sit down for once in your life, push all your prejudices out of your head, and read a Quran, which explains the history of this world. That was what put my mind at rest, was that the Quran explained things so simply. It told me what had happened in history, pretty much the same as the Bible and the Torah. There's really not a great argument between the three of them, except it seems to me that some people just will not read a Bible and a Quran and a Torah. Read the whole three of them. And that will break down any ideas about one God, because that's all it is with Islam. We believe in one God, not idols, or not a God that has to ask permission. We believe in a God that asks no permission. He says be, and it is in a second or a million years, whichever it takes. He is all powerful. He needs no partners. He needs no one to hold his hand through anything. It's us that need our hands held. We're running out of time. We're running out of time on this earth. If you can look at your grandchildren, look at them sincerely in the eye and say, this world is a safe place for you to grow up, I'm sure that you would have to keep your fingers crossed. Because we know that with the events that are going on at the moment, this could turn into something really nasty, uncalled for, and can be very destructive. And that's what's happening now. They sound like light words to be actually in the terror that those people are in the Ukraine and the people in Gaza. They can't even plan a holiday abroad. Because, you see, Palestine's gone now. It's all Greater Israel. And those people are under the kind of pressure which we don't even know in the Western world. We don't even know that. Time's getting on, as I said. You've been driven away from the truth. All of us have been driven away from the truth. By governments that look responsible, by people who think they know better, through false prophets coming up in front of us. Alcohol is killing many people every year. It's the great poison. It's killing so many people. It's over 1 million people a year are killed by alcohol and alcohol-related diseases. Child prostitution is becoming out of hand. People have forgot their values. They forgot their dignity. We've got so many poisons on this earth at the moment that people are just losing the plot. They're just losing the plot. The money goes up. The money never comes down. You know, you're getting no bargains here. That's the way it's got out there. It's got cold and hard. Islam offers another way. Islam offers another way. A way that we should have a good look at. And if you are fair in your judgment and you want a life that is complete, that is dignified, and an offer to someone else, where people will look at you and know that you stand up straight, then come to Islam and have a look for yourself and see what's really going on. Brush your prejudices aside. Find yourself a Quran and a Bible and a Torah. They're all good books. They're all good books. But the book, the Quran, will tell you how to live. That's the difference. It will give you an idea how to live in peace and harmony and dignity. It does actually give a recipe for that in the Quran. The other books don't do that in such a formal way as the Quran. But, as I say, I'm not here to argue which book's right. I don't mind. I don't mind. I'm soon to leave this earth, and I would like to leave behind something better. I hope you've enjoyed what I've said. I hope I've not offended anyone. I hope I'm not... I don't want to cause no confusion. There's enough confusion out there already. Assalamu alaikum. Good night.